So Jai Hind. We are starting with the superconductivity lectures. So let's start with the first lecture, with this basics of the superconductivity. So here we will discuss about how superconductivity were actually discovered, and how it was observed, what was the experiment was done in 1911, and we'll see that how in superconductivity resistance is zero. That means resistivity is zero. Okay, so first of all, the question is, what is superconductivity? So the answer is, super flow of electrons inside a metal is known as superconductivity. This is the definition of the superconductivity. So superconductivity is all about the flow of electrons, conduction of electrons, conductivity of electrons. So it is highly recommendable to take a brief recap of band theory of solids, in which we'll discuss about the Drude's model, in which he described flow of electrons and the conductivity of electrons at normal temperature. Okay, so Drude's model, Drude's theory. So I briefly we'll discuss what is Drude's theory. Okay, so we'll see that why metals are good conductors of electrons, because there is a free electrons. The electrons are freely are available to move inside the atoms. That is why it is that way it is metals are good conductors of electricity, and there is a bands, electrical conduction band and valence bands are overlapping. Okay, that is why it is highly conducting. Now this is results of Drude's theory, but Drude's theory was the classical theory. It was not consistent with the quantum theory, but the formulas which are derivable by Drude's theory was the conductivity formulas and the resistivity formulas was consistent with the quantum theory. Now the wave function of the electrons in the Drude formula or the quantum theory was observed by Bloch wave, something known as Bloch wave function. And what is that? So psi nk equal to u nk e to the power I k dot r, where k is something known as wave vector, which is p by h cross. P equal to h cross, k is the momentum wave factor. Now this k is taken only from the first Brillouin germs. Okay, so this is minus pi by a to pi by a. I'm sure you read it in the band theory of solids chapter. Okay, now the thing is that what is UNK? UNK is something known as the periodic potential. Okay, which is also in between the minus pi by a to pi by a. Now here n is something known as number of energy bands. Okay, now the question arises that what will be the occupation number of the electrons? Electron is a Fermi, you know that. So what is the occupation number in a state, which is known as Fermi-Dirac distributions? So Fermi-Dirac distribution is something known as Fermi-Dirac, which is 1 by e to the power e minus mu by kt plus 1. If it is minus 1, that will be for Bose-Einstein distributions, right? Now if we took some small volume, that's a small volume, arbitrary volume, which is having volume dqk. Okay, so we'll see that how many number of electrons are there inside just a small volume. That will be given by n equal to n by v, the small k, with our all k 1 by e to the power enk minus mu by kt minus dq by k. So this is the formula to calculate number of electrons inside a small volume. Now the question is, here we will consider the highly degenerate quantum gases. The study that we will take is the highly degenerate quantum gases. So what we'll do is that we will only consider at the Fermi surfaces. And how we will know that what is the Fermi surface? For the Fermi surface, the condition is that mu, which is known as the chemical potential, is always very much greater than kT, and in which EF will be equal to that ENK. Okay, one more thing is that why there is a equal to, I did a mistake over here, let me correct it. N equal to n by v 2 by 2 pi to the power cube. It is cube. Now why it is 2 over there? 2 is over there because there is electrons, and we know that electrons are fermions. Electrons are spin half particles. For the spin half, there is spin up, spin down, plus half. Spin is plus half and minus half. To encounter the both, there is a 2 multiplication is there. Okay, now as I told you is that so we'll consider the surfaces, we'll consider the places in which there is a Fermi energy, Fermi sphere, sorry, Fermi surfaces, in which we have EF equal to E and K, and at which there is only one conduction band. Okay, so if we rewrite if there is only one conduction band, as I told before, the N is given as the number of energy bands. So as there in the Fermi surface there is only one conduction band. That is why what we'll do that we will now on neglect the that N subscript. Okay, so we can rewrite the N, the value of N, that means number of electrons, number of fermions inside a given surface, inside a given volume, is known as this, just to eliminate that K. So as you can see, there is 2K. Not to be confused, that this K is known as Boltzmann constant, and this K is the wave vector. Okay, now the one more thing is that what is the temperature, what will be the energy boundaries. Okay, the energy boundaries are decided by Fermi energies. So what is that energy boundary? So the energy should be between EF minus KT to EF plus KT. Okay, I think this is the just the introductions, just the results of the band theory of solids. So these are all the easiest things that I insist in that you know all these things. So let's erase and continue with the Drude's theory, little bit Drude's theory. What are the results of the Drude's theory? So what happens is that in 1895 to 1897, in between, J.J. Thomson discovered electrons. Okay, J.J. Thomson discovered electrons. After 3 years or 5 years, depending on in which year it discovered the electrons, in 1900, Drude formulated a theory called the Drude's theory for exact calculation of electrical conductivity and thermal conductivity of electrons. Okay, so what he did is that from the Drude's calculations, sigma, which is known as the conductivity, sigma is given by Ne square tau by m. Okay, so what is that? That is sigma is the conductivity, E is the charge of the electrons, which is 1.67 into 10 to the power negative 19 coulomb. And what is m? M is the effective mass. M is the effective mass of the electrons, and tau is the collision time. So what is the collision time? Let's understand this. So let's make a picture in your mind in which we have there is a pipe. Let's say there is a pipe, conductor, inside the conductor there is a pipe, there is electrons are flowing. Okay, so one more thing is that what you mean by resistance, what is mean by conduction, what is conductivity, what is resistivity. Resistance, conduction are phenomena. Resistivity and conductivity are properties of different individual metals that you should understand. Now let's understand. Okay, so there's a pipe over there, there is electrons inside there, and they are flowing. So as you can imagine, there are electrons jiggling inside there, and there is a collision occurs. So there is a one electron, there is another electron. If it is collision, then it will transfer the momentum and energy, and it will allow the forward electron to move forward again. So if there is a more collision, there will be more collision. Okay, so that was I was talking about the tau, the collision time. Okay, there is a, what is the time required to collide one electron to another electron? So if there is a T1, another there will be T2, T3, T4, there is a n electrons are there, and they have T1, T2 up to Tn. So the average lifetime will be T1 plus T2 up plus T, like this. Tau will be T1 plus T2 plus T3 up to Tn by n. That's how tau is the average lifetime of all the electrons. So the collision times, I think you have read about drift velocity. In that the tau is the same tau over here. Okay, so one more thing is that what is the relation between J and sigma? Okay, what is the relation between J and sigma? J equal to sigma E. What is J? J is the current density. Okay, E is the electric field. Now what is the resistivity? Resistivity is the reciprocal of the conductivity. So rho will be equal to m tau inverse Ne square. Okay. One more thing. What is conductivity? Conductivity is something called the capacity of electrons to flow inside a conductor. If it is high capacity, there is the conductivity high. Low capacity, conductivity is low. It's totally depend upon the type of metal. Okay. So yeah, one more thing is that the conductivity also depend upon the temperature. How? If it is temperature increases, the entropy of the system increases and there is a more jiggling. If there is a more jiggling, there is a more collisions occurs. So that's why more capacity will occurs. Okay. So what is this? Resistivity, and what do we call this one is something known as scattering rate. Now this scattering rate are of three types. One is the scattering due to impurities, tau impurities. Another scattering rate is due to electron-electron interactions. And another, which is the last one, is something known as electron-photon interactions, due to which the scattering rate is given by photon. Okay. So what will happen to the now new resistivity is something Ne square. Okay. So now this scattering rate is certainly dependent upon the temperature. Okay. So by experimental observation, what we found is that this tau impurity is independent of the temperature. I mean, surely for the non-magnetic substance, if the impurity is non-magnetic, then it is surely the independent of temperature. But the tau electron is depend upon the T square, something known as T. So we can write is that T impurity is independent of T. T electron is proportional to T square, and T electron phonon is proportional to fifth power of temperature. Okay, certainly for the low temperature cases, this one can be neglected, that the electron photon interaction can be neglected. So what could be the the approximation to the resistivity is something known as rho equal to rho naught AT square. Okay, plus something. For the low temperature, it can be neglected. So what you observe, what you expect, that what could be the graph of, if we see, there is a rho, there is a T. So at T equal to 0, this is rho naught. Let's say it is rho naught. And if T increases, it increases parabolically. So we should expect like this, right? So actually it is consistent with most of the metals. But in superconducting case, there is a, what we say is a trick. But what we not see trick actually is a word used in films. What we say? Okay, I will tell you if I remember what it is. Twist, right? So there is a twist. So there is a twist for these superconductors. So what happens is that if it is for the higher temperature, it actually is like this. But there is a temperature called critical temperature, which is known as Tc, written as like this, subscript C, Tc, in which at that temperature the resistivity going to 0, certainly going to 0, Tc. Okay, so this dot 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 is for the non-superconducting state, and this solid line is superconducting state. Okay, so actually in superconductors, it is not like that there is a very low resistivity. Okay, if we can measure, this is exactly 0, the resistivity is exactly 0. Now this result is going like a explosion in scientific community, that how it can be, how it is true that the resistivity is 0. So is what we it was first observed by Mr. Camerlingh-Onnes in 1911. So 1911 is not only famous for Mr. What was his name? Mr. Bohr, for the discovery of the nucleus, but it was first that he observed, Camerlingh-Onnes discovered the superconducting state. That means there is a limit of temperature. What was his intention is to check Drude's theory, check the resistivity of some metals at extremely low temperature. Extremely low temperature it can be. Okay, so what happens is that he first observed gold and platinum. Okay, he first observed gold and platinum, and it actually consistent with this equation. Okay, so said okay, balle balle. Now he turns to mercury. Why? Because of this specially high purity, he chooses to mercury. So what happens is that at below 4.2 Kelvin, at 4.2 Kelvin, below 4.2 Kelvin, there is a dramatically some things happen is that the resistivity gone to 0. So what happens is that there is a of the resistivity. So there is a limit of the low resistivity that instrument can observe by that time in 1911. That we will discuss that how he observed that experiment process. So what happens is that he goes to below these things. Okay, now that temperature. So is that it is observed that it is not equal to only that low resistivity. It is exactly 0 resistivity. So what happens is just the exactly 0 resistivity. That means if it is exactly 0 resistivity, that means there is infinite conductivity. And how it is can possible? There is a infinite conductivity of electrons. See, one thing is that the scattering temperature, scattering of electrons, scattering rate of electrons due to impurities, we know that okay, there is a negligible of negligible of temperature. Okay, so it is not independent of temperature. If as far as the electron interaction is concerned, it is T square. If it is electron phonon, it is T5. So for the low temperature, T5 can be neglected, but first these two things cannot be neglected. But also by considering that, but we are getting that the resistivity is 0. So how it is possible? So it was a quite surprising for the scientific community. So let's discuss that how he invented these experimental facility, how he observed. First he used 2-port network. This is a sample and this is a voltmeter. We know that voltmeter is always connected parallel to the sample, always. Okay, so what happens is that now R equal to resistance is rho L by A. L is the length of the conductor and A is the area of the conductor. Now what happens is that, so for rho to be 0, R should be 0, resistance should be 0. Now as you can see, what we do is that we decrease the temperature of that sample. Now again connect it to the wire and observe that if it is V equal to 0, then R equal to 0 and rho equal to 0. Okay, but what happens is that there is a limitation over here. So as you can see, electrical conductors have also little resistance. So the resistance, the volt over here can be also added by the resistance of this wire up to this and this also. Okay, that was one inconsistent of this experimental design. So what he did is that he changed it to like this, which is known as 4-terminal. So in this way, the resistance is exactly due to this sample, not the all electrical wires. So in this way, what he observed is that for the finite I, he observed the voltage equal to 0 inside the 2-terminal over here inside the sample. Now V equal to 0 and I was some finite value, that means R equal to V by I, so which is equal to 0. If R equal to 0, resistivity equal to 0. So it was quite surprising. Okay, so now it was one, as I told you, the experiment facility for that way. So the most convincing evidence of that the superconductor's resistivity is exactly equal to 0 by the observation of persistent current. Okay, let's see, there is a superconducting ring, so in which we can flow a current I, because there is no dissipation of energy at the finite resistance. That what we observe is that if there is a magnetic field, so if there is a current I will be flow by the Biot-Savart's law, there will be a magnetic field and there is a flux. So what we will observe is that if the magnetic field is constant over time or not, or as the magnetic flux is constant over time or not. So we want to time it should be constant. Okay, so let's prove it, and it is not actually that much difficult. So these are actually the magnetic flux phi m. Okay, so see what is phi m. Let's say phi m, magnetic flux is something B dot dr, right? B dot dr. So dr is that we are taking. So what we'll do is that we know the third law of Maxwell's equation. Third law of Maxwell's equation, what we'll thought? Curl of E equal to negative rate of change of the magnetic field. Okay, so just integrate with the surface. So what we'll observe, curl of E with ds integration negative delta V delta t ds the surface S. Okay, so by using what is called Stokes law. Okay, Stokes law, what it is doing, Stokes law can be converted a line integration to surface integration and vice versa. So if we use it, it will just ADR. Okay, and from this equation, if we in derivative with respect to t, what we observe, d phi dt equal to delta V delta t dot dr. So if we put it over there, use this one, oh sorry, it is S, should be surface, right? So if we put this one over there and there is a negative sign, d phi in dt is equal to E dot dr. Okay, so what we will do is that if we choose our line integral inside the conducting wire, that means E will be 0, right? Electric field will be 0. If electric field will be 0, d phi by dt will be equal to 0. That means our phi will be constant. That means magnetic flux will be constant. Well, it is what we want to achieve. So what we want to do is that if there with the flow of time, magnetic field and magnetic flux is remaining constant or not. So it is, we see that phi m equal to constant. We proved it. So we can do one more thing is that, so we can use this property to set up a persistent current in a superconducting ring. So what we will do is that first we start with the superconductor. So let's take a superconductor, and at a temperature above Tc. Why? Because we want to study at a normal temperature. Again, what we will do is that we apply magnetic field, external magnetic field. Third, what we will do, we decrease the temperature below Tc of the sample, below Tc. Now if we change the magnetic field, so if we know that phi m will be equal to B dot ds, that is the magnetic flux for this superconducting loop or superconducting ring. So phi m, but we know that this is the condition for the phi m, that phi m will be constant no matter what will be happen, no matter that that condition can be applied, that if we remove the b external. Okay, so now if b external equal to 0, then also it is observed to be phi m is equal to constant. But how can it be observed? How can be phi m will be constant? This is the true only when if there is a self applying a b external, originating a b external, b magnetic field due to this one. Now if it is originating some magnetic field, that means there is a flow of current, right? If there is a flow of current, then also we can say that, right, there is a magnetic field, that means there is a persistent current, right? So there is a persistent current that we observed, that there is a own magnetic field, it is produced due to the current I. Value of I is such a way that it is the same thing to induce a magnetic flux inside the superconducting ring. Now if phi is constant, I will persistent current I will be also constant. So as you can see how we read how we can set off a persistent current inside a magnetic inside a superconducting ring. So you can ask that there is a possibility that there is some limit of resistance, electrical resistance can be happened inside the superconducting ring. But let me tell you that we are doing my scientists are observing experiments for this setup of the persistent current, in which so this is the way the scientist set up the persistent current inside a superconducting ring. And in the previous years, coming years, that we are not observing any the I changing over time, or the phi m is changing over time. Okay, so the thing is that it is the same thing we are also observing the superfluid helium-3 that we are observing. So today we discussed all that how the superconductors were observed, how it is discovered, and how we are proved that the conductivity is equal to infinite inside a superconductor at that temperature. Okay, at below Tc, the conductor becomes superconductor. There is a phase transition at Tc that we will see at the upcoming lectures. Now in the next lecture that we will discuss about the Meissner effect. What is the Meissner effect? It is exactly used to distinguish between the conductor and superconductor. So how it will behave inside at magnetic field, outside magnetic field, and how metals are observed inside a magnetic field. And we'll see that how superconductor, one type of superconductor, there is a two type of superconductor. So how we'll see that how superconductor, type 1 superconductor is behaving like a diamagnet. Okay, what diamagnets do? If a diamagnet is there and there is a magnetic field outside of it, it expels the magnetic field lines. Okay, so we will see that in a Meissner effect, and later on we will see type 1 and type 2 superconductivity and its phase transitions. Okay, Jai Hind, Namaste.